There it is. Dr. Najib, can you hear us?
Hello, I can't hear anybody. Are we talking or not?
Can you hear us now? No. Hold on.
Director, one more. You can still hear us, correct?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
As can I.
Pastor Burris. Thank you.
More than, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You want
It's
the
his
video?
camera. I don't want the video.
Shut it up.
Yeah, until you go.
Hello.
And now they can hear.
But I cannot hear them.
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear you.
I can. All right, thank you. And close it. Yeah, now I can hear.
Director Najib?
Yes, now I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Director Owen Moore
Here.
and Director Pence.
here we have a quorum. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, very.
We'll begin with comments from the public. We have only one person signed up. Richard Cohn, would you please come to the end of the table here?
Good
Thank you.
afternoon, good evening, I guess it's afternoon. Sun's still shining. Good afternoon, Chairperson Foley, members of the board, and President Martin. My name is Richard Cohn, C-O-H-N. I teach ESL, ELL part-time, and I'm currently the Vice President for Part-Time Faculty, American Federation of Teachers, Local 212. I want to share a concern with you about something which affects part-time faculty. But before I do that, please understand that I do not take speaking before the board, before you, the board, lightly. MATC has been a part of my life since childhood. Both my parents took classes at what was then known as vocational school or night school. I knew people in high school whose day was split between MPS and MATC. And when I was laid off from A.O. Smith, I took engine lathe classes here at MATC. In the late 1980s through very early 1990s, I taught ESL at MATC in the evening while teaching in MPS during the day. MATC touches many lives and is an incredible asset to our community. It's no secret that MATC has increased reliance on part-time faculty. That is the trend nationally. Part-time faculty are invited to Coordination Day, MATC Day, and non-student contact days. Important initiatives, announcements, strategies, expectations are shared at these activities. Collaborative discussion and planning occurs at these activities, and that is why they are important. Now, just before the October 17th MATC Day, I was reading about it in the week ahead. In the preliminary information about non-teaching days, I read, full-time faculty are required to attend, part-time faculty are optional. And then in the FAQs about MATC Day, I read, part-time faculty are invited to participate as their schedule permits, but will not be compensated for participation. Of course, I'm supposed to feel good about being welcome, but not compensated, because the next item in the FAQ states, post-probationary part-time faculty may submit MATC Day hours for their FQAS renewal cycle in sum total. Full-time faculty are required to be there because these activities, we are told, are important. Full-time faculty make twice as much and more than part-time faculty. Part-time faculty are invited to Coordination Day, MATC Day, and non-student contact days, but are advised they will not be compensated. Of course, I remember when our union had to remind the college to be sure to advise part-time faculty that their attendance was not required. Of course, part-time faculty are the largest group of teaching employees at MATC, and turnover among part-time faculty is high. In my department, ESL, ELL, we started the current semester with 5 classes that did not have instructors. Are we asking why turnover is high? Do part-time faculty feel valued by the college? Perhaps some do, but I hear from many who feel demoralized and resentful. We often hear concerns, complaints, and frustration from part-time faculty because their assignments are cut just before the start of the semester. And although some part-time faculty participate in non-teaching activities such as Coordination Day and MATC Day, those participating do so because they want to know what's going on, and those who don't say they won't go because they're not paid. Remember, the instructors who teach part-time make half or less than full-time faculty. The impression most people have is that we are a top-heavy organization with more VPs and other administrators than most colleges in the state. Why not adopt the mantra that the classroom is the most important place in the district, or that the people and services that serve students and families are the priority in our district? Madison College, Chippewa, Fox Valley, and other colleges pay for attendance at non-teaching activities. Our college should work to ensure that all employees are adequately trained and informed. Our college needs to compensate with additional pay part-time faculty who participate in Coordination Day, non-student contact days, and MATC Day. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will not be responding to any matter discussed in the public comments in adherence to the state of Wisconsin open meetings law, which prevents the governmental body from discussing any specific item that was not publicly noticed on the agenda, and this item was not noticed. So we will continue with the agenda. First, item 3 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of September 26, 2023. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved. I'll second it.
Motion by Director Case and a second by Director Baker. Are there any comments or questions about the minutes from the last meeting? Seeing and hearing none, we have a motion by Director Case and a second by Director Baker. Would all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
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 The motion passes. Next agenda item is approval of the consent agenda items. As we have done in the last several meetings, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve all of them in a second. And if there are specific items that need discussion, we can do that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I'll move approval of consent agenda items.
Thank you, Director Baker. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Pence, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments about the consent agenda item bills for September 2023? Are there any questions or comments about the financial report for September of 2023? Are there any questions or comments about the human resources report? Director Baker.
Yeah, I'm again drawn to looking at our diversity efforts and our hiring. And I find, year to date, so here we are in October, so we expect to see faculty, full-time and part-time. 85% of our full-time faculty that we've hired year to date are white. 83% of our part-time faculty that we've hired year to date. And I do know that we have efforts and we're trying. I need to see the results of those efforts. And, we've been asking these questions now for several years. So, and again, I highlight the part-time faculty in particular because I see that also as a pathway to full-time and a way to really work hard at diversifying our workforce by being able to offer part-time in a number of places. So it's not meant as a question at this point as well as much as an observation, and that, excuse me, that we really do need to see the results of some of our efforts.
Thank you, Director Baker. Any other questions or comments about the human resources report? Are there any questions or comments about the procurement report? Are there any questions or comments about the construction report? All right, we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items by Director Baker and a second by Director Pence. Would all those in favor of approval indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next agenda item is board action items. The first is resolution F0286-10-23. Authorizing the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory note series 2023-2024E of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Oh, sure. Oh.
Motion by Director Case. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Director Pence. Is Kevin Mullen here? Come on up and tell us about the sale, please.
Sure. Good afternoon and thank you. My name is Kevin Mullen. I represent the Public Finance Department at Baird. I know you're used to seeing recently John Meehan and more recently Justin Fisher. I'm here replacing Justin for this cycle of the borrowing to answer questions and discuss the sale. Not necessarily in that order. So in front of you is a report that describes the sale today, and I'll cut to the chase. We had a very successful sale given a very difficult market, in my opinion. Thankfully, we had 5 underwriters that bid on that note that was sold today, and this is one of your monthly $1.5 million borrowing cycle. And so it's good to see familiar bidders in this list of people. I think the last time that this sale occurred, you may have had 2 or 3 bidders on your notes, and it's nice to see some good participation. What I like about the sale, if you look at this on page 2, of those 5 bidders, Huntington Securities was the lowest bid. And they were low by roughly 20 basis points, meaning their bid of 3.95% was 0.2% lower than really the next grouping of those bidders. So it reflects a good, strong bid. And I like to see that those rates are all kind of in a tight ball in the middle after that. So I'm happy about that. Just generally describing this borrowing, as I mentioned, the true interest cost was 3.95%, which is less than the borrowing that occurred a month ago in terms of true interest cost, which is kind of surprising. The amount was $1.5 million. You'll receive the proceeds of this borrowing on November 15th, and the bonds mature over a 5-year period beginning June 1st of 2025 through June 1st of 2028. They're non-callable. And most importantly, you maintained your AA1 rating. The rating report is attached. I don't think that there are any surprises relative to the last rating. But strengths continue to be your financial flexibility and the management of your organization. Pressures continue to be declining enrollment, as well as just modest wealth levels in the broad community. Things that you don't really have a whole lot of control over given the economic indicators. So I don't think that there's any new news there. And then lastly, I will point you to page 4. We've updated the cash flow to reflect this borrowing with an average interest rate of 5%. We used 5% because the coupons top to bottom on this borrowing were 5%. You'll receive a premium as you have in the past, meaning the underwriter will give you some additional dollars to buy that 5% interest rate down to the true interest cost of $393. So any questions with regard to the sale overall or any of the information that I've provided?
Any questions in the room? Any questions from the board members who are online?
No.
No. Director Burris, I can't tell if you're saying no or nothing at all. Do you have any questions? We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion last time? All right, would you please take a roll call vote?
Director Burris,
You may be frozen. Let's come back to her. Maybe you can, Pete, you can try to reach
Director
her.
Case.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Director Moore Ogunde,
Aye.
Director Najee,
Aye.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes. Next is resolution F 287-10-23, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million general obligation promissory note series 2023-2024 F of Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move approval of resolution FO 287-1023.
We have a motion to approve. Director
Second.
Case, second. Any questions about the issuance of the next series of bonds? No questions in the room. Any questions from board members that are online?
No.
All right, we have a motion from Director Baker and a second from Director Case. Please take a roll call vote.
Director Case. Aye. Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Director Moore Ogunde,
Aye.
Aye.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Burris. Director Burris,
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Next is resolution F 288-10-23 to establish the fiscal year 2023-2024 tax levy. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Director Case has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Owen Moore. Any questions, comments in the room about this resolution? Director Baker.
Yeah, so I do understand that we establish our levy every year at this time. One of the pieces of information that is very helpful is if the staff can tell us what our levy will mean for $100,000 house in our district.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Eva Keither. I'm the controller at MATC. I think I've met some of you. I'm here. Jeff is on vacation, so good to be here with you. So I'd be happy to answer your questions. So in a nutshell, increases to MATC's equalized property valuation have resulted in a decrease to the mill rates for FY24 of approximately 7%. So for taxpayers, this means per $100,000 in property value for homeowners, our tax levy has decreased by $6.31, going from $89.98 per 100,000 in value to $83.67. So we were able to increase our revenue or our levy limit by as we all hear all the time, by the percentage increase in the property valuation that's attributable to new construction. But the overall mill rate did decrease due to the sizable increase in our base and our total valuation of taxable property in the district. It's like 9% increase in total valuation.
Any other questions?
Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, I get it. I just, because that's a question that people may say to you is, okay, like, what do you guys cost us anyway? And it's nice to be able to say that although we continue to do fabulous work, we actually are costing our taxpayers less.
Any other questions?
Any
Next.
questions from board members online?
No.
Seeing and hearing none, we have a motion by, I've forgotten who made the motion.
I think I did.
Director Case.
Director Case. And second by
Director Owen. Moore?
Director, thank you, Owen Moore. Sorry, I should have written that down. would you, let's see, this is a roll call vote. Please take the roll call.
Director Mendia Ramos.
Unmute. Unmute yourself, please.
I said aye.
Thank you.
Director Moore Mukunde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Owen Moore.
Aye.
Director Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Burris.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye. Resolution passes. Next is resolution F0289-10-23 to approve the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 annual budget amendment. Let's see, do you have, well, we should take a motion first. Is
I'll
there a
move
motion?
approval.
Director Baker. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Case, thank you.
As long as we're sitting here.
Would you please tell us about this?
Sure. So we have one amendment for our FY 23 budget. And it's a standard type of amendment. So we are required to report our general fund by our report, all of our accounting by fund and function. So at the end of each fiscal year, based on an updated actuarial study of our OPEB net liability, we have to do this reclassification. We have to reclass prior period OPEB costs to one of these functional categories, which is the general institutional category. So that what that does is it typically causes a few of our cost centers to be unfavorable to compared to budget. So we have an unfavorable balance to budget. And so this amendment just adjusts the functional budgets to remove this variance. And it's something that we do every year, and our auditors audit the work and we work with them. That's the only amendment for FY 23.
Any questions from the board members online? Director Najib.
Is it just an accounting issue, or this functionality issue with the cost center?
Well, it really, again, we have to very precisely report by function, and there is a reporting requirement that requires us to put these OPEB, these retirement costs to the general institutional function, and then our budget, it's out of whack with budget. So it's an accounting, it's essentially an accounting thing.
Any other questions from the directors online? Anyone in the room? All right, thank you very much. We have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Case. This is a roll call vote. Please take the roll.
Director Moore Mukunde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Owen Moore.
Aye.
Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Burris.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Mendia Ramos.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes. Next is, Eva, you're going to stay with us for a while?
Sure.
All right. Next is resolution F0290-10-23 to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget amendment. Would you please tell us what this is about?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion first. Thank you.
Motion.
Baker. Motion by Dr. Najib. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Who was that? Is it just
Burris, I think.
was that Director Burris?
No, Mendia Ramos. It was not.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right. Would you please tell us about this adjustment?
Certainly. So we'll start with the general fund. And so with this amendment, we're adjusting our tax levy. We're adjusting these revenue lines that you see. The first one is tax levy. And you can see, you know, our original budget is based on an estimate we do in June and it's approved. And our revised budget is based on the released, you know, valuation by the DOR on August 15th. So we know we are establishing our tax levy, a very pretty small change for the tax levy. We're also adjusting our state aid, which is the most significant adjustment that you see. The change is 3.6 million. And this is you know, based on, again, when budgets were initially approved, the state allocation, early speculation when the state biennial budget was in process was that there'd be a bigger allocation to our district, and that did not play out. So we had to adjust that revenue provision. And the other revenue lines that we're adjusting have to do again with the valuation information that was released by DOR. And so we know what our personal property aid is. We know what our aid in lieu of computer tax is. So we're just setting these to what we know we're going to receive. The biggest one being our state aid adjustment. And then, of course, if we adjust our revenues, we have to adjust our expenditures. So we made some adjustments to our discretionary budgets. We pulled back 1.6 million to acknowledge the fact that we don't have that revenue. And then we also reduced our other uses. Means it's basically, it is a vacancy position savings that we are reducing by 2.8 million. And really, when we did, again, I hope that made sense, but when we did our budgets in June, we weren't really that conservative with a vacancy saving. So basically we have since I've been here in 9 years, the most vacant number of positions, and from month to month to month, that vacancy has been pretty high. So we put a placeholder in the budget to say this is what we would expect, you know, given how long it takes to fill a position, given market considerations and such. So it's a vacancy savings provision that allows us to balance our budget in light of the fact that we see this reduction in this big reduction in our state aid revenue source.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? Director Case? Oh, I've got Najib. Dr. Najib.
So did we break even now?
We always prepare balanced budgets. So we are yes,
Balanced.
yes,
Okay.
we're balanced.
Anyone else online? Question or comment? One more time in the room. All right, thank you. We have a motion by Director Najib and a second by Director Mendia de Ramos. And this is a roll call vote. Would you please take the roll?
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Burris,
Aye.
Director Case,
Hi.
Director Mendieta Ramos. Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Day, Director Moore Omokunde,
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes. Next is this. Oh, I wanted to say thank you, Ms. Keither, before you left. Thank you. Next is resolution F0291-10-23 to approve designation of MATC state public officials under Wisconsin Code of Ethics.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1941, (13), any administrator that reports to Dr. Martin is designated as a state public official. So those administrators are required to complete a statement of economic interest with the Ethics Commission, which includes conflict of interest and financial disclosures. So this is brought to the board every October for approval of that designation.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Case. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sir, second.
Let her second.
And I think that was Director Burris. We have a motion from Director Case, second by Director Burris. Any questions in the room? Any questions from the board members online? There being none, this is a voice vote. We have a motion by Director Case, a second by Director Burris. Would all those in favor of the resolution please indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you. Next agenda item is policy reviews. This is a first read of the policy. It will be brought to the November meeting for approval. We have two policies which were distributed today, one of them regarding paid holidays and the other regarding investigations. The policy regarding investigations is being pulled because there's additional work to be done on it. So we will have to have that presented for first review, I assume, at the November meeting. Dan McColgan is here to tell us about the paid holidays proposal and to answer any questions. You want to give us a quick overview of what this is?
Sure, thank you, and good evening, everyone. The paid holiday policy is part of the employee handbook, and what we tried to do here was some cleanup in terms of practices and also in terms of having it in sync with other appendices in the handbook. So the three main things that are in this policy, which was reviewed by the Employee Handbook Committee. The first one clarifies that for people working on a paid holiday during the weekday, they would receive time and a half for the hours that they work. And in addition to that, because they don't have the day off as a holiday, we are adding 8 hours or their shift into their comp time leave bank to be used at another date. The second thing it does is it clarifies with respect to Memorial Day, Juneteenth Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day, that you have to have a work schedule in the week which the holiday falls to be eligible for that pay, because we do have some 9 and 10 month employees where some of those holidays are not on their work schedule. And this is covered where we list the holidays in the appendices, but it wasn't specified in the policy. So we did want to clarify that. And the third thing this does is clarifies who is eligible to receive the pay on the actual holiday. We've had some questions come up, especially with third shift, which runs from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I think previously the language and maybe elsewhere in the handbook said if you worked on the holiday, you were eligible for a full day's holiday pay. And so we had some questions in terms of the practice. We had maybe Friday after Thanksgiving is a really good example. Somebody scheduled to work that Friday coming on at 11, works through till 7 on Saturday. The practice had been not to pay them. And then through the complaint procedure and whatnot, it was determined that it wasn't clear enough. And so we were paying that. And we took the issue to the handbook committee. Actually, we had a subcommittee that went back to the regular handbook committee, and we had consensus to clean that language up this particular way, indicating you need to work a majority of the hours on the actual holiday to receive, that time and a half pay and additional compensation.
Any questions from board members in the room? Director Baker.
Just to be clear, so this is non-instructional, non-faculty, correct?
Correct.
And I assume the handbook includes someone from 587 who reviewed this in terms of their
587, local 212, and the 3 local 212 bargaining units are part of that committee as well.
Thank you.
And faculty holidays are specifically listed in the appendix. There's I think 7 of them.
One clarifying question.
Director Case.
So obviously we are into the school year at this point. If this is approved, will it be retro back to the beginning of this school year or from the moment of approval?
Assuming it's approved in November, it would be effective moving forward at that point. So would probably be starting with the Thanksgiving holidays most likely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, oh, sorry.
I forgot to ask, there are questions online, Dr. Najib.
Yeah, is this for full-time people or part-time or both?
Part-timers have holidays as well. So yes, it would apply to both full-time and part-time employees.
Any other questions from the board members online?
Director Burris.
Director Burris.
I just want to clarify. I didn't get to hear Director Baker's question.
Oh, I asked, that I just was clarifying that this was non-faculty. And then I asked about the represented units that had reviewed it. And he answered that they did as a part of the handbook.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then one question of my own. So you said for employees that work on holidays, they will get time and a half, and in addition to the time and a half, they will also get 8 hours of comp time.
Correct. For their, if that's their shift, and most of this falls within public safety, and they do work 8-hour shifts, and that's the holiday pay. Even the part-timers in public safety, they work 8-hour shifts and they just work fewer days.
Okay.
Any further questions from the board members online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Director Moro Mukunde.
Go ahead, Director Mukundi.
Is there still a requirement to work the day before and the day after any holiday payday?
So in other words, if somebody is sick on the day before Thanksgiving, would they be eligible? Yes, they would be eligible. There's not a stipulation, nor was there in the handbook that you had to work the day and the day before and the day after. The stipulation is, generally with regard to those summer those holidays that fall more in the summer and Labor Day, you have to have a work schedule in the week which the holiday falls. But if you can't be there due to vacation or sick leave or family medical leave, that is not a disqualifier.
And you just have to have one work day within that week to be eligible for the paid holiday?
You have to have a work schedule in that week. And I guess if you had a part-timer that had a full, they only worked 8 hours and they had that, if they had a schedule that week, they would be eligible.
So a schedule that week, meaning they have to have worked minimum 8 hours?
No, they would have had to had a work schedule. Because we do have a number of part-timers that work 4 to 5 hours a day during the week. And and for them, they would be getting the 8 hours, they would be getting the equivalent of what their work schedule is.
Rated amount.
Okay, so if that part-timer is only scheduled for one day at 4 or 5 hours, they would still be eligible.
Yes, they would.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the directors online? Director Tina Owen Moore.
No, I just said no, thank you.
Oh, all right. I thought you were starting a question. Any further questions in the room?
Just I want to say that I really like this policy. It's very generous and fair to the employees.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McColgan.
Thank you.
Next are monthly reports, starting with the
more?
chairman's report.
They pulled it.
Oh, they pulled it. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's Weingarten.
And I have a couple other issues. But
First thing on my report is a reminder about the annual Community and Technical College Legal Issues Conference being held at Waukesha County Technical College in Pewaukee, Thursday, October 26th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Friday, October 27th from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. You can participate in all of it or part of it as you wish. Unfortunately, there are no remote participation options, but this is, I've been to this conference most of the years I've been on the board. It's very helpful to understand the legal issues that colleges are facing. I know one of the issues I expect them to talk about this year is First Amendment issues on campus again, which has been in the news in the last few days in particular. So I encourage you to do that. If you want to sign up, please coordinate that through Beth Schultz. Not Peter, Beth. Through you? Yeah, okay. Following that is the regular fall meeting of the District Boards Association, which will be at the Ingleside Hotel, also in Pewaukee, on the afternoon of Friday, October 27th, with a reception and banquet at 6 p.m. And then the board meeting will be Saturday morning, October 27th. Again, I encourage you to participate in the District Boards Association activities. This one is on the west side of our own district, and so it's a convenient one, a lot more convenient than going to the upstate ones. If you have any opportunity to join this, please do so. And again, if you are interested in attending, please let Beth or Pete know, because you have to be registered, but there usually is a remote participation option for the Friday activities. You might want to confirm that if that's what you're intending to do. Third, winter commencement. Would you please hold December 10th on your calendar for your participation in the MATC winter commencement at Fiserv Forum starting at 10 a.m. It usually lasts about 3 hours. If you are able to attend, would you please let Pete know as soon as possible so you can order your regalia, which takes a few weeks to arrive. Can't wait to see you all wearing your black robes. Fourth, update on the presidential search. The Ad Hoc Committee on Presidential Succession, consisting of myself, Vice Chair Baker, Secretary Mendieta Ramos, and Treasurer Erica Case, met to review the request for proposal. Following our discussion, the RFP was issued on October 10 to the general public and was also delivered individually to 17 vendors selected for direct solicitation. These individual vendors were selected based on 1, past experience in using them, 2, prior state system approval, and 3, reputation in the industry. The documents at your seat include a copy of the request for proposal. Questions about the RFP were due October 20. No questions were received. Proposals in response to the RFP from the executive search firms wishing to participate are due to MATC by 11 a.m. this Friday, October 27. The proposals received will be distributed to the members of the Ad Hoc Committee on Presidential Succession, who will individually score the submissions and narrow the pool down to the top 3 candidates. The top 3 candidates will be invited to present to the full district board of directors on November 10th. The board will immediately complete their individual evaluation forms after the presentations and discuss their thoughts as a group on the presentations. Individual scores will be tallied, and the highest scoring vendor will be selected to work with MATC to develop an official contract, which will be included in the purchasing report, the consent agenda item at the November 28th district board meeting as the chosen vendor. It's really important that as many board members as possible participate in this. It's also important that you see all of the vendors that are presenting rather than just dropping in and out. Beth is trying to figure out scheduling, which we really can't do quite yet because we don't know if it's going to be 3 or possibly 4 candidates, depending on how the scoring goes. Please get your availability and time limitations to Beth, and we'll do the best to make it possible for everyone to attend. Any questions on the chairman's report?
Mr. Chairman, are people, I know I'm attending this weekend, are there other board members attending the association meeting in Waukesha?
I don't know.
We have Director Burris and Director Mendieta Ramos attending the legal issues portion. I am not aware that they're attending district board, but the majority is.
Great.
Next is the president's report.
Yeah.
Well, good evening.
Dr. Martin, sorry.
Good afternoon or good evening, Chair Foley, board members, community members, employees, and students. So good to have you here. Like to announce that we had the STEM Center opening on Friday, September 29th at the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Educational Center, which is in our C building at room 278. The center is going to provide classroom success, graduation, and career opportunities by providing their study spaces inside there, promoting more faculty and student interactions, STEM tutorials, and equipment demonstrations with opportunities to connect with business and industry professionals and to offer students more career options. Special thanks to Dr. Kamala Goodwin for leading this, as well as Dr. Sadiq Isahaku, the other deans as well as our STEM faculty and our pathway staff, facilities planning, construction team, the Vice President of Learning, Dr. Dakwar, and our EVP, Dr. King. We had a surprise visit from Dorothy Walker, which is really great, our former Dean of Technology. And so it was just wonderful. It's really a wonderful event. MATC Day, we held our annual MATC Day last week on Tuesday, October 17th, right across the street here at the Miller High Life Theater. It's a day for really engagement and development for our employees. We started MATC Day in 2014 at the beginning of my presidency as a way to really bring everyone together and to talk about MATC and how we can all grow and benefit together from the work that we do. The theme of this year's MATC Day was You Matter, and featured a presentation by Sean Gullius titled Creating a Mattering Culture at MATC. Highlights from the college's success over the past year were shared at the beginning of the event, and the day concluded with employees attending a workshop of their choice. Special thanks to the MATC Day Committee, to Elle Bonds and her team led by Jane Beyer, Dr. Mannion and her team for her work on artificial intelligence workshop, which was a big success. Faculty presenters from the Center of Teaching Excellence, and all employees that gave presentations on their area of expertise. And finally, and you're going to hear more about this later from Ramey, a major achievement for Wisconsin was announced this week that Wisconsin is among 31 regions selected for the highly competitive Phase 1 Tech Hub designation, chosen from 371 applications across 49 states and 4 U.S. territories. Wisconsin will receive one of 29 strategy development grants to enhance the realization of the Tech Hub designation strategic vision to strengthen the state's biohealth ecosystem. Phase 1 recipients are now invited to apply for Phase 2, which achieved can range anywhere from $50 million to $75 million to support our project, which is aligned with the overarching goal. So we're thrilled to be part of this 15 public and private consortium that played a pivotal role in steering Wisconsin toward this designation to advance research in personalized medicine and biotechnology and create jobs in this cutting edge field. I want to thank MATC faculty, especially Dr. Sheldon Garrison and the rest of the team that worked on this application. So we're really proud to be part of this group. And that concludes my report. I'm excited. It is.
Any questions for Dr. Martin? Any questions from the board members online?
No.
All right, seeing none. Thank you, Dr. Martin. Next is the legislative matters report for Bray.
Actually, Rainey should be.
I'm here.
Ramey, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. You should have my report in front of you this evening. As I've done in the past, I've included just a summary of sort of the current ongoings in Madison, many of which you will, see the headlines yourself, but I like to just keep that there. So you have a general sense of what's happening in Madison, kind of at that higher level, whether they touch, the college or not. I think it's just important to have a sense of what's going on there. In terms of those top lines, I've mentioned the special session legislation that the governor introduced back in September, special session bill 1. I do want to provide just a very brief update on that bill. In the past, when the current governor has called a special session, the legislature has typically just gavelled in and gavelled out, not taking up the call. There's no requirement that the legislature have to come in and actually act on the issue before them. In this instance, they did not do that, and the Senate actually held a hearing on the special session bill 1. And I'm bringing this up today because the governor included a number of items in that bill, including additional funding for the Wisconsin Technical College system. But I just want to be clear so that as you may hear or read headlines that the bill is moving, the bill received a substantial substitute amendment to it. So it's not the original bill that was first introduced and debated. So while we'll see some traction there on the special session bill, it has been amended, so it does not include the funding for the Wisconsin Technical College system. So I just want to make note of that because it has moved in the process, but instead it's more focused now on an income tax reduction and several other components, which have been a priority for the legislature. Moving down to state legislation, I've highlighted a couple of the new items. Within the last week, we've had quite a bit of activity. Some of the items that I'm going to speak to tonight only just circulated for legislators to review. Just yesterday, a bill draft was circulated, and late last week, another bill draft was circulated and actually had a hearing this afternoon that I attended, and we actually submitted testimony in support of. So I'll start first with Assembly Bill 549. I believe that our testimony is hopefully in front of you as well. This bill circulated late last week and was introduced at the end of the week and had a hearing today, and it would provide one-time funding for grants to technical colleges to support manufacturing and advanced manufacturing programs, as well as funding to support recruitment and retention bonuses for individuals in truck driving programs. So, generally this is a good thing, a positive thing, some additional grant dollars that we may be eligible for under certain circumstances. It is one-time funding. So in our testimony, we indicated the importance of predictable and sustainable funding just for general operating purposes, because we have so many industries and sectors in need of whether it be recruiting and retaining staff, but expanding programs, etc. So we did make note of that in our testimony this afternoon. We also encourage the bill authors to consider modifying and allowing a little more flexibility for retention and recruitment, retention bonuses in this case, to also apply to current staff as well. So we don't create kind of a churn environment where then you're creating incentives for, instructors to leave one college for another. It doesn't really solve your problem if you're not allowed to retain your current staff. So again, good opportunity. We were excited to present some testimony. The grants that colleges could be eligible for would be up to $1 million. They would require a match. And we've been working closely with the District Boards Association on some of the more technical aspects of the bill. But I do expect that the Assembly will take up this bill next month when they come in for floor action on one of the various different days that are scheduled. So that's Assembly Bill 549, a new addition.
Excuse me.
Was there a question?
Can I stop you there? This is Director Baker, and just ask a question about that one. I'm just curious, and with all due respect to the manufacturer sitting at my table, I think healthcare professional services is about 50% of the jobs in our market. I think healthcare, I think manufacturing is about like 10%, and still an important part, but I'm just sort of wondering why $1 million specifically for truck driving and manufacturing, where I know we have these huge needs in a lot of other places that are actually big growth areas certainly in our district, and I think statewide.
Good question. There is another proposal that's being worked on to address some needs in the healthcare sector, particularly in the oral health workforce space, which I know is again more of a narrow approach to the overall need. But hopefully we'll see something there. There $20 million was earmarked in the budget to address oral healthcare programs at the technical college level, and trailer legislation is being worked on. So again, more of a very narrow part of the overall need. I think, to answer your question, $1 maybe I would say the squeakiest wheel sometimes gets the grease. And so, I think that some individuals approached legislators on this, and there's been a lot of advocacy around truck driving programs in particular over the last year, just from my perspective. And so I think folks were looking to infuse some more dollars in higher education. As we know, the dollars weren't there in the state budget, unfortunately. So kind of jumping around there to answer your question, Director Baker, but I think it's, the most obvious one that I can give you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So we'll continue to work with the District Board Association to, like I said, work in those spaces that we'd like to see a little bit more flexibility or more defined definitions in the bill. But, generally we're appreciative of the effort here and potential funding. And it's been nice to see some key partners advocating for this. I think especially as we look toward the next budget cycle, where we can kind of tap those same organizations on the shoulders to say, let's kind of come together as a coalition to get funding to really address all of those sectors and needs, whether it means program expansions because of wait lists or, difficulties finding instructors, et cetera. So it's good to get the attention in hopes of more attention in the future.
Director Najib, did you have a question?
Yes, please. Thank you for your report. When you said that the grant of $1 million requires a match, where the match gonna come from, and is it in our budget already?
Good question, because those are the questions that we've raised to the bill authors and leadership and the committee chair, that again, there is a concern that, how will colleges identify the match? We're trying to work with how matching funds could be defined. So whether that be dollars from the college, or could there be an employer partner, where that match could be defined in a way where an employer partner is providing space for a program or providing some sort of equipment. So those are some of the technical details that are still being worked out. The bill's only been, in the public realm for about 3 or 4 days now. So lots of moving parts here, but we're certainly looking at how we can improve upon the definition of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, and the grants and the recruitment and retention bonuses as well. So very good question. Those are the same questions that we've raised to the bill authors and the committee chairs.
Any other questions from the directors online? Anyone in the room? Oh, I'm sorry.
I had interrupted.
Rami, do you have more?
Yes, a few more items just to flag here. This will not impact us currently, but Senate Bill 522, Assembly Bill 554. This would require to be a member of a technical college district board, that an individual be a citizen of the United States. I flagged this previously as a bill that was circulating. It will receive a hearing on Thursday. So again, not an impact currently to us, but because it impacts district board membership. So I just wanted to, make the board aware of that. And then there's a bill listed, it doesn't have a bill number yet. So it's referenced as LRB 4893. So it's still a bill draft. It will have a bill number soon. And it's already been scheduled for a hearing next Thursday. This is a bill that's been circulated in response to the SCOTUS decision on race-based higher education program requirements. So the bill would repeal everything in state statute as it relates to preferences in higher education programs, and remove the race-based component and instead, include disadvantaged students. We did know that this, would eventually come this fall. It has circulated. We'll receive a hearing. I've been in contact with the District Boards Association on how to approach this. It will also, of course, impact the University of Wisconsin system. It impacts programs, including the Minority Teacher Loan Program. There are specific programs as it relates to incentive grants for technical colleges, and also some HEAB grants that currently, students of color receive. So it's moving relatively quickly. We're digesting the information. The governor has, of course, stated his position on this bill. Of course, there's that dynamic with the Supreme Court decision as well. So I don't have a lot more for you right now, other than to say this bill circulated yesterday afternoon. we've been in touch with the District Boards Association in terms of how to approach it for a hearing on Thursday. But I can certainly share that with the board if you'd like to take a look at that and review all of the different areas that it would impact as it relates to grant programs and scholarship programs in particular. And that's all I have for new items. Everything else has been pending. We know not much is happening at the federal level currently.
Any further questions from board members who are online today? Seeing none, any questions in the room? Director Maramukundi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thank you to Ramey for the work that she's doing. And also the bill that she just talked about, where it's identifying and saying, oh, it's not, let's make sure that we're not basing our decisions on the race of people, but rather their need. That bill is moving extremely quickly because I just saw it circulated for co-sponsorship, and now it has a hearing on Thursday. So it's moving extremely quickly. It's something that some of my colleagues want to do, but don't want to have a lot of talk about it, because there's a certain period of time that you even have to submit documentation if you want to testify, written documentation for or against, and it's not really giving people a lot of time to do that. And so it's something that they don't want to have a lot of conversation about, but they just kind of want to rush through, which is unfortunate.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ramey.
Thank you.
Is Eric Zymans in the room?
Hi, thank you. My name is Eric Zymans. I'm the Director of Student Life and advisor to our District Student Government Association. And so I'm just here to introduce our student board representative for the year, Kimberly Haynes. Kimberly is a paralegal student at our West Allis campus. She was involved with DSJA and SJA and Wisconsin Student Government last year and has continued that involvement this year. When the opportunity came up to be part of this opportunity, she was super excited and jumped at it and said, why would anyone not want to do this? And now she's very nervous being here today. So, however, I hope you enjoy your time with her this year as much as I have working with her. And with that, I will pass it over to her for her report.
Thank you, Eric. Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you very much, Director Foley. Dr. Vicki Martin, members of the MATC District Board and Administration.
Kimberly, could you be a little louder, please? A little louder, please.
I'm sorry. I am happy to be the District Student Government Association Student Board Representative this year. I am a paralegal student at the West Allis campus in my second year. I'm excited to share that Student Government Association and District Student Government Association have had successful elections and began to meet. In our recent executive officer meeting for DSGA, we began defining our goals for the academic year. Currently, we are focusing on the DSGA structural changes to increase involvement, advocacy, opportunities to share our voice, and having as much fun as possible through events with our fellow students. In Wisconsin student government, I have had the opportunity to attend the first meeting on October 6th and 7th at Nicolay Technical College in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. WSG is currently working on expectations for student representatives for all technical colleges, defining our position, topics for the year, and discussing goals for the organization. Additionally, we are beginning to plan the legislative summit in Madison, Wisconsin for February, where we will advocate for technical education to legislatures and representatives. Lastly, as a student, I am enjoying the opportunity to get involved and attend events at the West Allis campus through student life. Specifically, I really enjoyed the HSI celebrations that brought food trucks to campus so I could experience foods from other cultures. These events help me build new connections to other students and staff while positively engaging in a new experience. Finally, I thank you all for your time and the opportunity to share this information with you today and keep updated. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve in this role this academic year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Anyone online?
No.
Kimberly, thank you very much. Next is the enrollment report by Vice President Eva Pellis Martinez. Right. It says no report. Oh, it says it on my.
No,
Does not say it on there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good evening, Chair Foley and
Before
members.
we start, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a notation on my report, on my listing that's apparently not on the agenda, which is that there is no diversity, equity, and inclusion report for this meeting. I believe that's because the position is officially open right now. And so we will not have that report this month. Please go ahead.
But I'm still here.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Director, Chair Foley, and members of the District Board. Dr. Sarah Adams and I will be presenting the enrollment report. We are transitioning. But first and foremost, I would like to give thanks to Dr. Sarah Adams for sharing her knowledge and wisdom the last couple of years in presenting this report to all of you. So we'll begin with the enrollment funnel. And as of October 16th, as you can see, we are at almost 99% in achieving our goal of 100. In my opinion, that is really, really good. We are only 40 FTEs away from meeting the 100% goal when compared to last fall 2023. With that said, we do feel that we are on track to meeting also the spring semester goal if we continue at this pace. And we are looking forward to implementing additional strategies, which I will discuss shortly with you to ensure that we keep moving forward in meeting our goals. Next slide, please. When you look at the enrollment funnel in terms of FTEs, we know that as of today, we are 137 FTEs ahead from last year, which is fantastic in my opinion. We are moving forward, and there has been plenty of strategies in the last 6 to 7 months implemented through different departments at MATC to ensure that we continue to move the needle in this area. If we're looking at fall 2020, we are still 17% behind from 2020 pre-COVID. But again, we are also moving forward, and we are at 99% goal. With that said, if we're looking at the difference between fall 2023 and fall 2024, we are experiencing a 3.6% increase in enrollment when it comes to comparing fall 2023 and the current fall 2024. Next slide, please. When it comes to our head count, you can, thank you. When it comes to our head count, we are also 6.8% ahead when we compare fall 2023 and fall 2024, which is also really fantastic. Next slide, please. The last slide showcases a little bit of the demographics within the student populations. We know that we have some gender disparity there. The majority of our students are women. And then we also have about 38% of our students who identify as male or man. You also see the demographics broken down by ethnicity. And I just wanted to put out the disclaimer that these numbers include all of our students. Doesn't only include program students, but it also includes students taking our ESL, ELL courses as well. Good. Okay. Lastly, what I would like to point out is that as I am transitioning to this new role, I do feel that the team has done a wonderful job to get us to this point. There has been a lot of really good work taking place, and we are going to continue moving forward. Some of the things that you can expect is that we have a couple of goals in mind
in working with a strategic enrollment management team. And also cascading from Transformation 2024, Dr. Martin's goals of increasing FTEs. We have two goals in mind that we're going to be working on in the next 3 to 4 months. One includes increasing application completion rate. We know that that is an opportunity for the college in making sure that we are completing more student applications as they apply. And then we are also looking at the goal of continuing to increase the conversion rate, meaning that we would like to see those applications come in. We want to see those applications completed, and we want to convert those applications into registrations and enrollments. Some of the strategies that I can highlight for you, we do have plenty of strategies in the works. Again, our student enrollment management team has been working on these strategies, but I'll highlight a couple. One of them includes continue to improve the onboarding experience for new students. So there are various registration events that have taken place and will continue to take place. There will also continue to be targeted advising strategies to ensure that our students are registering and becoming MATC students. And then I am going to be working with my teams on better understanding the admissions, financial aid, and advising, and how we can remove some of the barriers that are getting in the way on completing more applications and also converting more of those applications into registrations. With that said, those are the strategies that we wanted to highlight. Dr. Adams, did you want to share anything else?
I think the only thing I want to share is that we are taking a closer look, and I don't want to say re-implementing, but we're really improving our recruit system, which is where our students actually do their applications. So we're meeting on that pretty much on a regular basis, a weekly basis, improving that system, adding with the consultant. We're working very heavily with IT to get that done. And we think that's very important for our students to be able to come into an easy system where they can understand. Another effort that we are working on, and I'm sure you guys are aware, is with M3, our auto admit. We're working on that with UWM and MPS. So we're really working on that and getting that in place and ready to go. So those are just a couple other things that we're working on that we really believe is going to help to improve our retention and our enrollment.
Thank you.
This concludes our report. If you have any questions, we welcome that.
Any questions? Director Najib, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just curious, do we meet the potential MATC student in their places, in their community activity, community centers? If you can just give us some explanation for that.
We do. A lot of that it handles through our marketing and our recruitment area, which reports to Tony, and I'm thinking of pop-ups, but Tony, you may want to add to that.
Sure. Director Najib, members of the board, Tony Talyavia, Chief Marketing Officer. So yes, the community outreach and going to places in the community comes from our recruiters. They do that in person. Not only are they reaching out to high schools, but they have relationships with our community-based organizations, those that we have a specific relationship with for our community education programs, but also other organizations. And then the other big strategy, as Dr. Adams mentioned, that we've implemented recently is the pop-up sessions where in addition to being present at these community organizations and present as community events, we also specifically as MATC host events in places within the community for really just us at places where we know that people are gathered.
As I know, there's a Salam school, we call it Salam School. They have almost 1,200, 1,300 students. And I know they have a good image of MATC and many of them go to MATC, but I never seen like any activity from any function or any, I don't know if you have anything there because you have like 1,200 students there. Do you know of any activity there?
So every school with high school grades in the MATC district, and there are about 100, has one of our 5 recruiters assigned to it. And I can certainly triple check the activity specific to that school, but we have a recruiter assigned to every school with high school grades in our district, public, private, or charter.
If not, I can help with that if you need any connection with the administration there.
Understood, and thank you.
Thank you, Director Najib. Anyone else online? Anyone else in the room? Director Pence?
As you're onboarding, I'm gonna ask questions. As you're onboarding students and they're, going towards the different programs, are you monitoring that? Should marketing be involved in trying to help fill some of the other programs that are not as well attended?
Yes, we do monitor the program. We do know the programs that our students are going into. Actually, we actually have what we call an enrollment funnel. And it gives us the exact program, the number of students, the programs they're going into. And Tony can answer the marketing piece again about how we do that, but it's kind of like an overall marketing strategy, but.
Sure. So we do speaking of the funnel, so thinking about the top of the funnel is where we're generating interest, leads, applications. So we do that across multiple audiences, and it includes things that are specific to our 7 pathways, so that we're introducing prospective students to the programs, all 180 programs, but within those pathway groupings. And then we do, when you talk about, getting those students into programs, we do run ads that are list-based of our newly admitted students and our continuing students, and even students who have recently stopped out, to encourage them to take that last step and register for classes, if that's answering your question.
I guess I'm talking a little bit after they're enrolled. Let's say because I'm in manufacturing, let's say the machine tool area is a little light, and do you have any marketing? Do you ever get that specific with the marketing that you'll have ads for, somebody machining stuff or things like that? But
Sure. The short answer is we have ads specific to manufacturing, construction, and transportation, but not for all 180 programs. What we've done in the past is tested program specific marketing, and we found that the ads generated a lot of interest, but they didn't ultimately move the needle on the enrollment numbers. And so we circled back with our ad agency and landed on really investing at the pathway level. Part of that is because, especially for students who would be first generation students who aren't as familiar with the specifics between a welding technical diploma versus a welding associate degree, or CNC versus CNC Swiss, that we're better off introducing the broad area of manufacturing with them. And then, if they become a lead, a recruiter actually talks with them and they can understand the differences between programs. Or if they apply as undecided, a career coach from the Career Hub will meet with them and talk about those options. And then we do program specific marketing, typically for new programs, as part of getting them off the ground. But based on past experience and looking at how other 2-year colleges do this best, we're typically doing the paid ads at the pathway level.
very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You might have to sit back down for this one too, but generally speaking, I think it's a 2-part question, but I think you began to answer the second part of it. I was going to ask what do you contribute this success? If we're talking about a 3.6 increase in enrollment and a 6.8 increase in headcount, I know you started to talk about the M3 auto admit and recruiters and pop-up sessions and the recruits that are attributed to each school. What other than those other things would you attribute to the success, and how can we continue to replicate that?
I think one of the things that contributes to the success, honestly, is the personal conversations we have with students, that personal connection, actually meeting with the students. When our students come in and they apply, and they do that online through Recruit, we receive that information and they can talk with our navigators and they can meet with our advisors, and our advisors will talk with them about, is this the program you want to go into? They let them know different information about the program. They take the time to actually meet with the students and to answer their questions. And sometimes with our students there, they kind of know what they want to do, but then sometimes they really kind of don't know what they want to do. So when we have those students, we also have what we call career coaches, and the students has the opportunity to actually meet with a career coach. And I think that really plays a role in our students coming here and continuing. perfect example, I had a student about a week ago, and he knew what area he wanted to be in, but he was not quite sure what he wanted to do. So my recommendation was go talk to a career coach. He made the appointment, he talked to the career coach, and after that, he was like, okay, I know exactly what I want to do, because they gave him an instrument, he took the test, he saw what his skills were, his abilities, and things like that, so he knew what program he wanted to go into. Technology is great, and we need to have technology, the best technology we can have, but nothing takes away that personal touch when you actually meet and talk with that student about what they want to do. I think that's a huge role in why our students and why they come.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask a question about that. Do we market that? Do we have ads, social media, whatever, running that says, come talk to us, to a career counselor, navigator, whatever the titles are, to see what you want to do? Tony, you're back at the chair.
Yes, specific to marketing. So when we first launched the undecided piece, we built that into our ad campaigns so that there's a strain of ads that are, and these are digital, but there's a strain of ads that says, you know, if you're not sure what program is right for you. And we're in the process of building new campaigns, and my inclination would be to include that, because I think we've found, and Dr. Adams and Dr. Martinez-Paulus can attest that since we started as a college through the guided pathways implementation, offering students to apply undecided, students have taken us up on that. And so I think it's and when we think about the application increases we've seen, and ultimately the enrollment increases, I think it's fair to say that giving students that option could be playing a role.
Are we also offering that option to high school students that are trying to figure out where they want to go, or even, what is it, 8th grade now, when individual educational plans are being developed? Do the students that are in 8th grade and freshmen in high school know that this is available?
So,
and the parents, do they know?
So yes, it's a part of our standard recruitment presentation that it's an option. So anytime that we're out in the community in a high school with high school students, with counselors and other people who are interacting with students, that is part of our presentation. In addition to being in an ad strain, it's part of our presentation. That's an option. I believe it's also on the landing pages that ads are sending students to when they're ready to express interest.
Any other questions?
Follow up to that. So you spoke a lot about high school connections, but if you look at data, it will show that kids make decisions around what's possible for them as a career, especially females in middle school. So if you're not hitting them in 5th and 6th grade, they may not be open to or think that skilled trades or any of those things are a possibility. And of course, I have to advocate for getting more BIPOC and female students into the trades because it's a great career for them. And there's lots of money in manufacturing, apparently. So do we connect with any of like the middle school STEM projects, things like that, where it gets visibility to? I know we've done camps and things like that in the past. Are we still focusing on that?
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit. I know that part of it is with the Career Hub and Dr. Martinez's area. They take a significant lead on those camps and other middle school outreach activities. And there's a particular role in that area that specifically works on exposing students to what would be non-traditional occupations. So that is built into their that part of the middle school outreach, and it really brings together Career Hub with support from our recruitment team.
And I would like to add that one of the subcommittees under the student enrollment management plan is really focused on early career. So they have identified 10 middle schools in the area. And this is a collaboration between the Career Hub and dual enrollment. So they are getting ready to really develop those presentations and really begin doing some of this early outreach, because we know through research as well that doing that outreach to middle schoolers, even elementary school students, is so critical to beginning that college journey. Thank you so much.
Director Baker?
Yeah, I like this great discussion. I really do appreciate it. And this was a field I worked in for a really long time in career and technical education at Milwaukee Public Schools. And, you know, we are pushing against social norms a lot of times, you know, and we're pushing against what parents might think their child should do, and especially reaching into early grades. And so, you know, it takes a lot of bold and repeated activity. And so it's good that we, you know, continue in the programs that we're doing. And I think another very important part of this is the relationships that we build with the K-12s. Because all of our K-12s have career and technical programs within them. Some of them are more robust at the middle school level and maybe even below that, because there's a lot of innovative engineering programs that are now happening at elementary school levels that are giving kids sort of hands-on stuff. But I do think that it speaks to how important it is that we have those really, really strong relationships with all the K-12s in our district, so that we're constantly able to know where those avenues are for us to interact. Because it's not all our work, it's work that we do jointly with them.
Any other questions about the enrollment report? One more. Dr. Moran,
Thank you. For gender, I think I've asked you this before, but I'm curious if there is any allowance for those who are identified as LGBTQ plus in any way, shape, or form. Are we calculating that in any way?
If we're tracking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do not believe we currently are tracking that through the application process.
That's my understanding.
I think we should be thinking about that in a way that does not put them in a kind of a bind as students, that does not out anyone who does not want to be outed, or make them the target of any kind of ridicule or anything like that.
Absolutely. Yes, I made a note and we will look into that.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's why we're here. I have one last request, and that is, as you do these monthly reports, I'd like to hear as much detail as possible about what we are doing at the K-12 level.
Okay.
And how we are changing what we're doing, how we're ramping it up, how we're being more persistent than we've been in the past. These are topics we've had on the floor for 6 or 7 years that I know of, and maybe longer than that. So we haven't had consistent reporting about that specifically. At least I haven't heard it. If it's been there, I apologize, but I'd like to hear more about that, just to give the board a sense of whether we are really doing enough. If we need to do more there. If we have to do more, how do we do it?
That's
Okay.
it. I made a note. Thank you.
If I may, can I ask one quick question now that Tony's back at the table?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, because it was brought up to my attention that one of the culinary labs has a very, very low enrollment. Are we at all targeting those Pro-Star students in the high schools? Or not targeting them, but reaching out to them?
I think we can look, and I'm fairly familiar with that from my time at MPS. I think we can certainly look at when we're engaging with the schools in MPS and the schools in the suburban communities that have Pro-Start, and how we can make that linkage. So I'll make a note of that.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like I should say going once, going twice here. Any more questions from the directors online?
Got two hands up.
All right.
My hand has been up.
Owen
Director.
Moore, I'm sorry, Director Burst. I'll
No.
get back to you in just a second. Tina Owen Moore, please.
Actually, Director Burris had her hand up first.
Okay, Director Burris.
My question was, what is our overall retention rate as it stands currently? I don't actually have the paperwork in front of me, so I just want to.
Yes, I can answer that. So currently for our fall 2023 retention rate is 54%, which is 6 points higher, 6% points higher than last year, fall 2022, which was at 48%. So we increased our retention rate by 6% from last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Owen Moore.
Thank you. I was thinking about these challenges through that principal lens and superintendent lens being in that K-12 sector. And I wonder about like the efforts around reaching out to the people who might have more influence in getting students to consider those options. I think a lot of times we rely on outreach to counselors, and a lot of schools don't even have a counselor these days. Like budgets have been so tough. And then I just as a teacher and a principal and as a superintendent, I don't personally recall getting communications that would invite me to MATC for events or invite me to bring students for something. And it's something I would definitely be interested in doing. So I just wonder if that outreach is going, you know, to people, not reaching people who could help influence those outcomes.
So I can speak to that. We can certainly evaluate, and we do have events for K-12 partners, and it does typically, from a recruitment perspective, start with the counselors. I think more of the dual enrollment outreach is going to the school administrators, but we can, I think, bring that back. We do work collaboratively because you have dual enrollment and the career hub and recruitment having outreach to K-12, and we want that to be organized and not duplicative and not confusing for the K-12 partners. So I think we can bring that back to the conversation about, are we being intentional about places where there may be different ways that the schools are staffed, and making sure that we're extending those invitations to things like the partner breakfasts to all the people who would be potentially interested in being there. So that's excellent feedback.
Thank you.
Director Burris, your hand is up again. Do you have another question?
I do not have another question. I will put my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a report of Milwaukee PBS General Manager, Debbie Hamlet, please. Welcome.
Hi, good to see you. It's hard to follow that triple threat. Tony, Eva, and Sarah are doing a great job. It's nice to hear. There hasn't been any movement in any of the bills that were going through the House or the Senate related to public media funding. So, you know, we're kind of stuck for a while. You all know what that's about. So we're not sure about the time frame for any of that starting back up either. We've been nominated for 3 Emmy Awards in the Chicago Midwest region. And these awards are for local programs, 2 for Adelante and 1 for 1036. And winners will be announced on November 11th. Of course, keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, we're very happy about that. You've heard me talk about Home for Heroes. It will air November 6th. And we also have 3 screenings ahead of the air date. 1 at the Oriental in partnership with the Historic Preservation Alliance on October 30th. 1 at the Clement J. Zablocki Veterans Affairs Medical Center on November 2nd. And the 3rd one is at the West Bend Art Museum on November 1st. So lots of screenings to take advantage of. The MATC Fall Graduation will broadcast the first weekend in January. So if you don't get a chance to attend, you can see it in January. We were the number 2 station in the country in terms of audience for the new documentary from Ken Burns called The American Buffalo, which aired last week. Number 1 was St. Louis, which was kind of surprising to me, but I thought it might be Oklahoma. Oklahoma was there in the top 5, but it was nice to be number 2. We're producing a program called Inspirational Stories to air on Thanksgiving Day. And the stories would include Daddy-Daughter Dance hosted by Milwaukee Rep. This is the 18th year for that. The Miracle League, which is about a baseball program for kids and adults that don't fit into typical able-bodied sports programs. Another sports-related story called Layups and Literacy features young boys who played basketball and their coach, Dr. Charles Wasbrin, who also taught them reading, writing, conflict resolution, and anger management skills. and Stephen Hall's story of how his mother influenced his musical blues career. We'll host a preview of the new season of John McGivern's Main Streets in mid-January. That'll be a date to be announced soon. And as of September 30th, we're 27% towards our goal of $6.7 million. That's 1.8 million roughly. And this is approximately about $500,000 more than we were last year at the same time. So we're doing well on a lot of different fronts, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from any of the directors who are online? Any questions in the room?
Not a question, but just a comment. So I had one of the musicians from the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra stop me over the weekend to say how much he enjoyed working with the team.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Great.
so
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Are we hearing anything more about PBS or someone else using our broadcast facilities for the Republican National Convention?
We have not heard anything yet. I keep checking in every week, but we haven't heard anything back.
Okay.
Dr. Najib had a question.
Director Najib?
Yeah, you mentioned so many screening. We can't like keep the date. Where can we find those dates if you want to attend those screening?
I can send that to Beth and she can send it to you.
Yes.
Be happy to
Thank
do
you.
that.
Why don't you send that to the board generally, so we get a sense of what those are and how often they happen and what they're about.
Sure, happy to.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, under board monitoring is the information technology update. David Rowe.
Good evening, Chair Foley, three board members, President Martin. As introduced, I'm David Rowe, the Chief Information Officer. I'm very happy to be back this evening to provide an update on our strategic plan, which we first released in December of last year. So in your board materials, you should have received a copy of that original plan for reference, as well as a presentation outlining our progress on the initiatives that we outlined in that plan. I understand, Chair Foley, for a number of questions which we received earlier today. I'm happy to address those now if you wish, unless there's other questions, or just really, how would you like to proceed going through these details?
Well, since the presentation was distributed in advance, why don't we start by asking if there are questions about it? Let's start in the room this time. Any questions, comments, concerns? How about the directors online? Any questions? Okay, well, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to give you a test and ask each of you what is meant by software deployment efficiency. David, I sent you a bunch of questions trying to or asking you in effect to talk to us about what some of the terminology here means and what some of these major software acquisitions, developments, whatever they are about. And in particular, we've heard critiques for some time that the software that we use to figure out how much we're supposed to be paying faculty just does not work very well. And I would like very much to hear where we are with that, fixing that problem.
Okay, since we're gonna do this, let me add one thing to that. Every time I hear about a transition from one product to another, it's always difficult. It's very difficult to take an organization this big and transition software. So if you could also speak to that, because there are a number of places, both in terms of faculty engagement and student engagement, where we're making transition.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's something I'm happy to do. It's a challenge to try and take a lot of technical detail and to condense it into something that's digestible and understandable if you're not a technical person. So certainly appreciate the questions. I'm happy to follow through with that. Starting with the first one around transitions or the software that we're using, a number of questions. First, you might have heard Illusion Colleague. That is our enterprise resource platform. That is the hub, if you like, of the whole enterprise. That is where we have three main modules. One encompasses the student side of things, so your admissions, your scheduling, your registration, etc. Another one for human resources, another one for finance. They're all part of one platform, and the data works in between each other. There's processes that overlap, and that's where we support the vast majority of our enterprise processes in the institution. Moving outside from there, there's other applications you heard before when Dr. Martinez Palace and Dr. Adams were talking, they mentioned the term recruit. That refers to Serum Recruit. It's another Lucian product, and that sits in front of colleague. And when I refer to the term in front of, again, thinking about our enrollment funnel from the student's journey from prospect through to graduation, this is a platform we have up front of that process that serves our recruitment, admissions, and soon to be application process. It does a lot of things that it has a lot of capabilities we don't presently leverage to at the best extent. And as referenced earlier, we have a project in place now that is seeking to maximize our use of those capabilities and really derive through the benefits that we can get from a platform such as that. Some of the terms we had in this presentation, which refers to transitions to your question. One of your questions, Chair Foley, was around the badging or micro-credentialing technology. The terms Credly and Anthology Milestone are in there. Credly is the current platform we use to support micro-credentialing. So for students that aren't program and on-program seeking, but are seeking more agile, short, again, credential to hang their hat on, this is the platform which would record their achievements. So as they earn a badge, it would record in this platform. That would be the mechanism for them to then show prospective employers what they've achieved, what their skills are, how they're remaining relevant current in the workforce. We are transitioning away from the Credly platform into the Anthology Milestone platform. So it's basically the same core function, but with moving to Anthology Milestone, there's a number of benefits and features that we would leverage that really sets us up to expand and maximize our footprint in that area. It's very much a growth need in the marketplace, and that's a strategic initiative that, again, it's the technology footing, but it drives a lot of the strategies that we have around admissions in the institution. Some of the other terminology mentioned there.
Let me just ask you a question there. Is this something which essentially operates automatically based on the data that's entered about what classes have been taken, et cetera? Or is this something that people need to be trained on to use?
We will need, I believe, I can't speak to details specifically. I need to have the Dean of Online Learning cover that, but I believe there is an individual we would need to hire to help administer the milestone application. A lot of the data coming to it, though, from downstream depends on the type of application, curriculum, et cetera. There's a lot of work to be done in between to help streamline that and move it into milestone. They're all activities we have in place, but that's not purely a technology question I can address individually.
Okay.
We mentioned Blackboard Ultra. That is the latest version of Blackboard, which is our learning management system. We successfully upgraded to that this past summer and fall. One of your questions, Chair Foley, was around student and faculty feedback on its success. I haven't heard any directly. It's been a success from my standpoint, purely from working with the IT help desk. Didn't receive any negative feedback, didn't have volume of calls. There was no inundation of challenges. And so, speaking from my tenure in IT across 25 years, that's a remarkable achievement. With a program or a change of that magnitude, things can go wrong very quickly despite your best preparation. So I think that's a remarkable achievement. But if you do want to get more feedback as to how that went, I could follow up for you.
The reason I ask about that in particular is because I see and hear criticism about that software, maybe not this edition of it, but the previous editions of it, as being very hard to work with, causing lots of confusion for faculty members. I'm not saying here specifically, but I see commentary about it in a lot of different places. And so I understand this is an upgrade or a new version of it. And I just worried that that sometimes those new versions don't fix the old problems. It's just they add new learning requirements. But if we haven't heard anything at all, I guess that means either the people have given up complaining or that there's nothing to complain about. I don't know which.
It could be. I mean, I'm not the right person to be asking that specific question. I could follow up for you, but I think as well, you look at the amount of preparation and materials available for faculty in particular to navigate and prepare themselves for how their courses would look in Ultra. We realize it's a big lift. We realize the challenges there, and that perfect preparation makes it possible. You'd excuse that analogy.
So let me just suggest this. I don't know if it's your department or someone else that should do this, but I think we ought to just ask. Let's ask the faculty if this is working well for them, and we may uncover something that can be trained or fixed or what have you, or we may uncover that there's really no problem with it at all, which would be great. Sure, Director Case.
If we ask that question, do we actually have the ability to make changes at this point? I don't want to ask them for feedback and then say too bad, so sad.
I can't comment on that. I don't know to what extent we can configure the LMS. It really depends on what feedback would be. It may be that there were some oversights with training or parts that weren't quite understood as we configured it, and that's able to be solved with the help of the online learning team. But if it's more of a strategic shortcoming functionality, that maybe something we have to take back to the vendor and see when that's being addressed as part of the product. But I still think it's a worthwhile question.
I just want to ask in a way that we're not going to ask them a question and then say, forget it.
Yeah.
We heard you, but we're not doing anything. So.
Yep, it's a good point. Working through my list, I think the only other one I haven't mentioned, or a couple actually, Transact was referenced in the proposal. That is the platform which sits behind our campus card. So if you're a student or faculty or staff, you've got your ID card. It opens a number of doors. Literally, it's part of door access for staff. It can give access to parking garages, make purchases, etc. We need to upgrade that platform mostly for support and compliance reasons. The platform we're on now is hosted within our data center, and the vendor is moving away from technology that we are able to support, and they're pushing their clients towards a cloud-based model. So what we're looking to do in the coming 8 to 12 months is to move this application from its support model residing in our own data center to being hosted by the vendor. So from a functional standpoint, it should be mostly transparent to staff and students and faculty, but that remains us. It keeps us in a stable, supported footing, and then gives us the opportunity to start expanding capabilities. There are a number of areas that we would like to expand the use of these cards for, but we have to take care of the support function first, and that's what this project would address.
What happens if the cloud connection goes down if you have a system based on cloud access?
Number of things. I mean, if the vendor is supporting a mission critical function such as that, you would expect we can investigate what their failover capacity is like, both for immediate outages as well as what their disaster recovery footing would be. So you're guarding yourself against outages such as that. Failing that, however, upstream from that, it's really about connectivity. So if you have internet connection, you're able to access it and move data back and forth. So it won't be necessarily one thing, but in terms of how important a platform like that would be, its resiliency to failure and making sure we don't have a single point of failure around that would be something we'd investigate. Yep.
Other questions? Anyone online have a question? I am not seeing any. Speak up if I'm missing you. Thank you very much, David.
My pleasure. There are other questions I
Thank
haven't answered, but if you want me to send a written explanation, I'm happy to do that as well.
No, I think if they're my questions, I'm good.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Dr. Najib, did you have another question?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Next is the community education update. Sadiq Isahaku.
Good evening, Chairman, Director Foley, board members, Dr. Martin. You have my my report. Any questions from you?
Questions in the room? Any questions from the board members online? Dr. Najib.
Yeah. Do we have enough faculty to accommodate the need of the ESL student community for registration, intake, testing, accommodation?
Yes, sir. We do have enough faculty.
Yeah, because I heard some student complaining that they have difficulty getting the services. I don't know, maybe just one student I heard from him, but if you have enough faculty, that's fine.
Yeah, if you can direct the student to me, I will make sure that we meet their needs.
Okay.
I mean, just
Sure,
that one comment. I mean, the growth numbers are astonishing and excellent. And although this has been a bit of a painful process, I think our attention focused on this area is necessary, and we will, keep looking at it because this is a tremendous source of growth of students receiving services from us and potential
Become a student.
enrollees in our FTE generating programs.
Thank you. Again, something that I would like to see going forward on a regular basis is how many of the people that are in this program are we actually converting to regular college programs? I'm not expecting you to have that information tonight, but as we've expanded this program significantly, I think it'd be good to watch that. Again, I don't want to put data burdens.
That's part of my goals. So it's on my goals already. So you should be getting that report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the lead faculty model. Dr. Dakwar.
Thank you, Chair Foley. Good evening, board members, Dr. Martin. So I shared a slide deck with you that went over definitions, maybe background context of the lead faculty model as well as Zensel's. Also, there was a big portion dedicated to addressing any questions that were brought before this, I think, prior month and other previous meetings as well. And in addition to this, I also provide some cost benefit analysis or cost wage analysis. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have to expand on any of the comments that I did. I did provide narration as well. So.
I have a question.
Yeah, you're not Jade. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned in your presentation that the process for establishing special assignments is not transparent and equitable. So I'm wondering why it's not. What do you mean by that? And if it's not, how we can make it transparent and equitable?
I think I said that it can be more transparent and equitable. I think, we have a good process in place. We have a cross-functional team that's been looking into key improvements as well. But I always leave room for better communication, better processes, process improvement and so on. I think in one or two areas we reacted to things versus we're proactive. We kind of communicated things in advance. And I think in that way, we're not as transparent about it. Was reacting to the budget and the fiscal situation of the college and so on. But there are certain things that we're looking into. Another one that came up is we don't have a budget line, for instance, to really kind of track this, monitor it, and, be more accountable. So that's another area where we can be probably better process, more transparency in how we do things as well. So, yeah.
Dr. Baker.
Yeah, I do hope the board will continue to get updated on that process. And I appreciate the fact that we're doing a collaborative, conversation on this. It's pretty vital. And this is very important work. And not having an actual budget line for it was a little frightening, I think, to the board when we realized that. I want to be able to, as we move in this process, and we don't need to do this tonight, actually, there's general statements. And so like I was looking at a few of these, like in the looking ahead, because I'm interested in what action steps we do to kind of control costs while still making sure that we're serving students in the appropriate way. Like I know at Madison College, for instance, they build 25% into all full-time faculty for some of these efforts. That's a more expensive model than what we're doing, I think. Because then they also have additional thing for leads. So, I think looking at some of our peer colleges is good. And then also sort of dissecting, how much more are we going to be having our associate deans doing versus the work that our instructors really need to do because they are the content experts, working in some of these areas. So I would be very interested to see our ongoing sort of progress in this and where we're going to save money and how we're making sure that we're serving our students.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the insight. And we do talk to our peer institutions and, we've been looking into other models as well, the committee, what we call the Professional Assignment Committee, the PAC committee.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking into other models as well. So, yeah.
Case.
So as part of the audit committee, I've heard multiple commentaries around, there's a lot of inconsistencies around people's understanding of how to use it. So no ill intention from anybody, but different areas are using it differently. And I see in your presentation that you talk about that you are working on a process and sharing that. Can you give some timing around that? Because this is not a new topic that we've heard about. And I've heard through the audit committee that the committee has been looking at this. So when can we expect that? Because we're into the school year. And so people are using this right now without a consistent process and without clear direction.
Sure. So one thing that we did right away is we wanted to secure these assignments way in advance, meaning say instead of reacting after the fact and so on. I'm happy to tell you, I mean, next week, I think the end of next week is the deadline for all of these assignments to be declared and then approved. So way in advance, we're talking 2 to 3 months before our January classes start. I mean, we'll make that kind of, commitment to our faculty. So the timeline has been fixed. We came up with a calendar. When I say we, that's really the professional assignment committee, the cross-functional committee that I referenced. So in that respect, I think the timeline has been fixed on a calendar for the entire year moving forward. Other key areas in the report, I think some we have deadlines of December. We must have, complete kind of process in place. The other ones go through the end of the spring semester next year. But in the meantime, we're not waiting for the deadline. We are any kind of low-hanging fruit. We're taking advantage of that and making some kind of, improvements.
So to be clear, when we start the spring semester, will employees that use this process understand when they should and should not do it and what the budget is for it?
Okay, let me go back. So the people would know way in advance before the spring semester starts. We will make that commitment because the calendar calls for that. As far as the budget, in fact, we have a meeting. We have our executive dean working very closely with our finance department. She's meeting with them, I think, tomorrow. But we've started the discussion a while back, but now we're really looking at concrete ways to really make it happen at this time. How soon can we make it happen? I would love to see this kind of being in place for next year, starting, next year. Because, this year is already kind of the budget is in place and so on. So it could be as soon as next fall.
So something that's been an issue since last year and has as an open audit item, we're anticipating having it fully resolved in next fall.
So
Like
we
a
have
very long timeline to me.
So we have a budget for this, right? I mean, but the budget is not really meeting our needs. So we're looking into.
I'm not specific to the budget, but there's not clarity around how people should use this. And there's differences in different areas, according to what I've heard from the audit committee. And the open item there is that there's inconsistencies in how it's used. And so there isn't a consistent process on how we use it. So I'm not sure how we can set a budget if we don't have clarity around how it's used. So my question is really around making sure employees are clear on the process so that we can get that in place and then we can appropriately set a budget. So
Sure,
can you
sounds
give
good.
me
So,
a timeline on that?
Yep, timeline would be December of this year.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. And then can we get an update on what that looks like once that's
Absolutely.
completed? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you think that will be before or after the December board meeting, which is a little earlier than usual in the month?
We'll make it a point to report back
That
for
would
the
be
board meeting in December. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
I think
Director Najib.
One more also question I have. You said that associate deans were eliminated with responsibilities assumed by lead faculty. I understand we have many part-time rather than full-time. Just wondering, my question, do we know if the faculty currently have the capacity to take on those responsibilities? And if they can, are they going to be compensated for?
So do we have capacity to have more lead faculty assume this role? I'm
Because
sorry.
deans, the associate deans, they were doing definitely doing a lot of responsibility. Now, if we're gonna put it on the lead faculty, so that's extra work. Can they do that? Are they like at capacity? They might do it, might not be able to do it. And if they can do it, is it fair to ask them to do it without compensation? Are they compensated for it?
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. Yes, I mean, every single thing that they do is compensated for. So lead faculty model goes for that. We have different levels, different buckets, we call them, and so on. And based on the functions, the role, and so on, we compensate them for that. Just to give you a sense of scale here, in the past, we used to have what we call instructional chairs, program chairs, department chairs, and so on. All that's now is clustered under what we call lead faculty. Now, as we transition to guided pathways and we wanted to flatten the organization and we wanted to have more faculty engagement, ultimately, get closer to working with the students, enhancing the student experience and so on. Model is great, by the way. It just required more faculty or lead faculty to be engaged. So back to the scale, we used to have, let's say, roughly 50 to 60 lead faculty, instructional chairs, department chairs, and so on. Now we have close to 180 lead faculty in the system. Huge. If you think about it for a minute here, that would be about 40% of our full-time faculty. So think about it, 2 out of 5 faculty are at some kind of lead faculty level, highly engaged in the business of our education here. Capacity-wise, I think we don't seem to have a problem with it generally. The only thing that comes up is in some cases to really finance the model. It's highly expensive. It's just way too expensive. And we need to come up with ways to really we're going to process map it. Actually, that's part of the improvement process, but we need to come up with different ways to really make the model more functional and make sure that we have the budget to support it. I don't know if that answers that question, Dr.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Director Case.
So you've got, and this might not be a question for you specifically, but in your presentation, you said the associate dean model was reevaluated and adjusted and the associate dean position was eliminated, yet we hired an associate dean.
Correct.
So that's no longer eliminated?
Okay, so with the guided pathways, we eliminated all the associate deans, right? And then at some point, we evaluated the process and felt that there is a great need for associate dean. Dr. Martin was so gracious to work with us, and she somehow came up with a budget, worked with us to come up with a budget to finance at least 1 associate dean per pathway to really assist with key functions. So as of today, we have 7 pathways and we have 7 associate deans hired.
So does the lead process then no longer become an issue? I'm confused by what you've got presented here because it's not clear.
Yep, sorry about the confusion. So what we're saying is that in some cases, there's some kind of supervisory management roles that need to be assumed by associate deans. We reinstated some associate deans to assume these responsibilities in addition to the deans, because we have 7 deans also in place. So what does this mean? It may mean maybe relieving the lead faculty from certain duties that they assumed prior to hiring the 7 associate deans.
Okay.
Director Pence.
Being a new board member, can you give me some examples of what these Ansel assignments are?
Okay. So the lead faculty, meaning instructional chairs, department chairs, and so on, they're engaged in, all related items to instruction, to programs, advisory committees, setting up classes, working on accreditation, sometimes equipment, construction, things that come up related to the programs and so on. That's lead faculty. That's one bucket. The other bucket is what we call special projects. Something comes up. Just let's say we want to become a Hispanic Serving Institute. Okay, we need some people to really promote the idea, to maybe train faculty, maybe to come up with curriculum, to have bilingual courses and so on, to look at best practices, to research and so on. These special projects are conducted by some of the faculty, what we like to call experts. They really have a level of expertise, and many of them, we usually go for the passionate ones. They're really passionate. Bilingual, for instance, is one of them. We have some key projects that we worked on, let's say online at some point, how to transition people who are not really tech savvy and so on. So we have faculty that can train them, work with them, coach them, and so on. That's a special project also. We have curriculum work also that that's a special project. We sometimes have, grants that come to me, and it requires dedicated, a big chunk of time. Faculty, by the way, their role, part of what they do is they have to do certain things within the college beyond instruction. But if it's significant, if it's unique, if it's kind of beyond, that kind of norm and so on, we compensate for that before the special project.
Who monitors that these are real projects?
So for the most part, the deans, I would say, the deans, and now that we have associate deans will monitor these projects. In addition to this, we created what we call horizontal functions. And they're also engaged in assisting with the process. Just to give you an example. So let's say class scheduling, the way we used to do it when we used to have associate deans was restructured around the new model. So now that we have lead faculty, how would that work? Okay, so we have, restructured that particular class scheduling department to work directly with the associate deans and to monitor some of the functions in that area. The same is true about the budget. We created that function also, and we have other examples too.
It seems like there needs to be somebody in charge though.
Correct.
Of this.
The deans and the associate deans are ultimately in charge of these projects.
So we, like Erica said, that we are back to a model of associate deans.
Some.
But there's also not clarity and consistency across the dean or the responsible parties in how the process is used. So that's what I've heard on the audit issues, is that they're using it differently. So it's not consistent across areas, which is why I asked the previous question, because they're not clear on what's included, what's not, how they use it, how they don't.
Which is why we're trying to get
Right.
to a statement of how that process is gonna
I
work
agree
and
with
be
that
organized.
assessment, by the way.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, like I said, so we have these functions, and now that we have lead faculty, associate deans are back, some of them, the deans, who does what, in what fashion, what process, and so on and so forth. And that's part of the assessment. That's part of the PAC work as well.
And to be clear, we haven't moved back to our former model. We had a lot more associate deans than just
That's
one
exactly
per
right.
pathway. We had them in each area. There were a lot of associate deans who had lots of different, so now with one back, we definitely need definition and an understanding of roles and responsibilities, because it's not just like, hey, this is the way it was in 2019.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered your question, so.
I'd like to go back to my corner and think a little bit. So. I'll have
Just
more.
wanted to make sure I'm sorry.
And it just, as a comment, it just seems a little bit unstructured to me.
It is.
The lead faculty model.
Yes,
Okay, sure.
it seems a bit unstructured.
Yes.
Director Mukundi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going over this, and I couldn't help to think that we were kind of piling on to certain people. Like there were certain individuals who were going to get more responsibility, especially if you take away the associate dean positions. I saw the guided pathway stuff, and I just said to myself, why? And we're going to shift our focus to enhancing student experience, which, on its face is a great thing. However, who's doing what? Are more of our faculty going to take on more responsibility because these positions? Because when I think positions being, eliminated, I think, in a position, there's responsibilities in it. And so then that gets scattered to different people. And are we being mindful that we are not burdening other folks who will then not be reclassified, who will then have more responsibility, will not be earning more dollars, et cetera? Are we conscious of ensuring that we aren't doing that? Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense, actually. So when we came up with the guided pathway, just briefly, so when I say enhancing the student experience, just to give you an idea, in the past, we used to have the school of business, the school of health, the school of, the list goes on. Now we moved that to say a guided pathway office, right? In the past, it used to be the dean and maybe 4 to 5 associate deans. To Dr. Baker's point, we used to have a lot more and so on. Now that's shifted to now what you expect in this kind of school office or pathway office now. We have a dean for the most part. Now we have associate deans too, but you have a student success liaison, you have a retention coach, you have advisors, and we have a combination of these. So all of these were dedicated to help the students, and that's shifting In the past, it was a school office, yeah, students can go there, they may seek help and so on. Now, everything is designed around enhancing the student experience. So that's the shifting that we did. Having said that, when we eliminated the associate dean's position, we listed every single function that's performed by an associate dean, right? We also said, okay, how do we take care of it under the new structure? And that's exactly what we did. We said, okay, some of it can be assumed by the horizontal functions. Class scheduling was restructured, some other areas and so on. Also, some of it, lead faculty may have to maybe assume some of it, by the way. And this is not forced on faculty. It's an elected position, meaning to say, at some point, faculty can just, throw their name in the hat or, and then they get elected and then they go into these positions. It's not like we come to faculty and say, you have to do this now, because we no longer have associate deans. These are the functions, these are the roles, would you be interested? And that's the way it goes. And like I said, there's some elections behind it. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, if I may follow up. Some folks have very altruistic viewpoints, and their perspective, even though they're not said you have to do this, they may say to themselves, for the betterment of the culture of the workspace, I will volunteer and step up to do this, because me taking on this extra thing will help my colleagues, or it'll make the workplace better, but it's still more for them to do while they're not being reclassified, because it used to be someone's job to do it. And now they're saying, I'm doing this, I'm going to take on this extra thing, and I'm choosing to do it because, it'll improve things. And we all know work culture, especially in the United States, is that we work.
Yes.
And, we have this whole grind culture. I'm grinding and I'm taking on all of these things and I'm filling my plate up. And is that really going to be for the betterment of the work that happens? Does that make sense? Is that going to
it does.
Is that going to be betterment for the work that happens, when before we had it clearly listed for specific individuals to do specific things?
Yeah. So I agree with your assessment. We have excellent faculty, and they really sometimes even volunteer to do extra work, and they take a lot of ownership in what they do, and they are proud, to be of service to the college, to their students, to their programs. So absolutely, there's agreement there. As far as the other portion of the question, I would say, honestly, our own experience has been positive. Usually it's not as positive when there's some constraints, like we can't afford to pay for this, or we don't have the budget to support it, and so on and so forth. That creates some kind of gaps between us and our lead faculty. So
okay, it'll be a continuous kind of conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions from the room tonight? Anything from the directors online? Very
No.
good. Thank you.
thank you.
Is there any new business? Director Baker.
Hi, well, so kind of playing off some of what we heard, and maybe some of what I'm thinking. So I would like to see us address our K-12 relationships. It was one of the items on ad hoc committees, and I don't know where we are with that, or if this is just something which we need to get some reporting to us as a full board. But I do think that we want to see whether it's the counselor issue, who are we reaching? How are we reaching them? What is the menu of programs that we're doing with our K-12s, the menu of relationships that we have built, and what do those look like in our district? I think that it's time for us to sort of take some ownership of that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Director Case, did you have something?
Just the continued update on the Zansel piece.
Okay. I think,
If I may add something,
yes.
I would like to get a little bit more clarification either during the meeting or via email in regards to MATC Day, and address what some of the issues brought up during open comments.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what that means. Why don't you send me an email with as much detail as you can and copy it to Beth, and we will get it on the agenda. Okay. Yeah, Director Mendieta Ramos, are you still there?
Yes, I'm.
Okay, I just want to make sure that will work for you.
She was talking and I think she.
Yeah.
Okay, you seem to be freezing here a little bit. I suggested that you send me and copy Beth Schultz with an email about that topic, explaining a little more about what you're looking for, and then we'll get it on the agenda. All right, well, I may have to communicate that to you directly. We'll figure that out. All right, is there a motion to, future events? We already talked about the BBA meetings, so I won't go over that again. The next district board meeting is November 28th at 4:30 in this very room. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I won't ask if there are any. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Makes Robin golf.
Oh, good to see you.
How are we gonna get? How are you gonna get Savalis?
Yeah, but if it's a development.
Yeah, I'm talking about getting your signature on this. Okay, so I'm gonna sign these, but I want one of you to look and make sure I didn't miss any. Okay.
You're welcome.
So what I missed the first 15 minutes of the meeting?